back. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are here with the wonderful, the one and only Manal the First.
Yes.
He has most recently, apart from doing many other firsts on behalf of Egypt and Egyptian women, she's recently summited Mount Everest, which is absolutely incredible. I've had the privilege of knowing Manal for quite a few years. We were neighbors at one point as well.
Yes.
I got to visit her incredible country with her and her family at one point, which was also amazing.
Time to come back.
And it's absolutely. But Manal, look, we're super impressed with what you've managed to achieve.
You.
I know it wasn't easy. Thank you so much for coming in and having a chat with us.
Always.
Let's start at the beginning. How did this journey begin?
So first of all, thank you. It's always so lovely to be back. So Everest has always been like on the horizon, as you know. I started mountain climbing in 2012. I did Kilimanjaro. I did Mount Kenya. I did Elbrus, which is the highest mountain in Russia. And then the idea slowly started to creep in, to start to perhaps prepare for Everest. So I remember when I first thought of that, it was 2015, after I summited Mount Elbrus. And I was like, wait a second, like, this is actually fun. I'm actually enjoying this despite the suffering, because you put yourself through so much suffering, but then you come down feeling like absolutely invincible. And you're like, I kind of enjoy that, you get it, because you're exactly all about that. And then I did Everest Base Camp, and that's when I had my first sort of taste of the Himalayas. And I started looking for any partners to come and say, okay, let's pay for this expedition because it's quite expensive. I almost did get a sponsor in 2017, but they were only happy to sponsor the training. So they sent me to Aconcagua in Argentina to attempt the highest mountain in South America. I failed miserably because of the weather, and it really shook my confidence. Then I did like a small little mountain in Morocco. It's the highest mountain in North Africa. And then I started thinking again about Everest. In 2018, I did Mont Blanc. I became the first Egyptian woman, and it was quite technical. So that's when it kind of like, reinforced my self-confidence to do these mountains. 2019, I did a base camp trip with Surviving Hijab, the ladies. And again, like at the time, there was a group of Arab women attempting Everest. I was supposed to be on the expedition, and I couldn't find sponsors. And it destroyed me. Like, it really, really, really upset me.
I remember that. I think we spoke around about then.
And when these things shake you up like that, that's when you really know this is what you got to do. Like, this is what you really want to do. Because a lot of people are like, yeah, but do you really want to suffer for 2 months? Do you really want to do Everest? Do you know what it takes? I was like, yeah, like, I want to do Everest. And then the pandemic hit. And I was like, oh, okay, wow. So here we go. We lost about 2 years. 2020, obviously the mountain was closed. 2021, all the expeditions were shut down due to COVID. Everybody, caught COVID. And then I was chatting with my mentor. I'm going to give her a shout out here. She's the first Arab woman to summit Everest and all the highest mountains on every continent, Suzanne El-Houbi. And, she outright just asked me, what are you waiting for? And I said, I just don't feel ready. I don't have the money. She's like, you have the money. You have the money. Like, it's somewhere in the bank sitting there, waiting for, she's like, are you going to buy a house? Are you going to like invest in, are you going to start a business? And I was like, oh my God, yeah, she's so right. She's like, Manal, do it. Because if another Egyptian woman does it before you, because she's like chilling, waiting for that magical sponsor to come.
Moment, yeah.
It's not going to happen. It was May 2021 when we had that sort of secret conversation. It was in Ramadan. I was sat on her couch in her house. She's an amazing woman. And she just said, let's get you started on, training. I climbed the Kilimanjaro for the second time, August 2021, all in secret in preparation, was training, like doing all the things that were sort of related. And then March 2022, head off to attempt 2 6,000-meter peaks in the Himalayas. And then in April 2022, I announced,
Incredible. And through that journey, what are you've touched on some of the failures that you've had. What have you taken from those failures along that journey? Because you've had it's been challenging from the start. I know a little bit of the background. Your family didn't understand it when you first said that this is what you wanted to do, and it's amazing to see how that has completely flipped on its head. And your dad sounds like your biggest supporter.
Yeah.
But what are some of the challenges that you faced from starting out on that journey, and the failures along the way to get you to the foot of Everest? What have you learned from that?
I think, when I discovered the whole mountain climbing thing, it was 2007. I was 27 years old. And, when I saw the first Egyptian man to stand on top of Everest, I remember very clearly, I told my dad, it was on TV, and I said, I want to do that someday. I swear to God. And he's looked at me, he's like, what, now you think you're a boy? This is like a male dominated sport. I was like, wait, but who says it's male dominated? Like, in which book does it actually say? Because at the end of the day, like, they put you in international school, you turn out a third culture kid, you're raised with this identity crisis, you get it. But at the end of the day, you have to stay aligned with your culture and your values, or the values of your parents, and I don't want to upset anybody. So I think the time I spent convincing my dad, but I'm kind of grateful for my perseverance and resilience. It took me 5 years until I just said, you know what, I'm 31 years old now. It's been 5 years. I've literally given you all the evidence you need to understand that this is not a dangerous sport if you stay responsible and conscious. Like, I'm not there to die. I'm there to just have a good experience and learn more about myself. That's, ultimately what it is when you go on these adventures. And I remember when I did Kili in 2012, he's like, oh, your cannibals are going to eat you. There are cannibals in Africa. I was like, we're from Africa. Okay, first of all, we're from Africa. There are no cannibals in Africa. And he's like, what if they kidnap you and then ask for ransom money? I don't have the ransom money for. I was like, it's fine. I'll ask my friends to pay.
Wow,
it's fine.
Some real rabbit holes he was going down.
Yes, it was like serious conversation. And that's so weird. It was like, my dad is like a very open-minded man. Like, Tom met him. Like, he's a very open-minded man, well-educated, but still these things you don't have any information about. And then you have like your daughter who's literally like did everything wrong in her life, like switched careers, never married, no kids, wanting, to go on these adventures, So that was Kili, and it was like, khalas, this is you did it, you enjoyed it, you came back safe, this is the last mountain. And then something happened, like, during, for example, like family gatherings, or, it's like, oh, my daughter climbs mountains, she climbed Kili. I was like, did she? Would you want to tell him like the rest of the story, like how she did it? So I think that was the first challenge.
She didn't get eaten by cannibals.
Yeah. I told her, but then it didn't happen.
She's still alive. And then it was like, it was just like years and years and years of witnessing how passionate I was about it. And like I said, in 2019, when, that group of girls that I was supposed to be a part of their team, my dad saw how heartbreaking it was for me. Like, I was like, I don't know why you don't want to give me the money. Like, some of them had support from their families. And I was like, why do I have it different? Like, I'm not asking you for money to get married or to buy a house in Egypt. Like, I'm just asking because it is a lot of money, So the second challenge, I would say, outside the whole family support system that was non-existent at the beginning, was just like the financial aspect of it. And, people just think that because you have this massive following on social media, it's so easy to find brands to work with. But when you are the girl next door, the underdog, when you reach out to a brand and say, oh, like, I have this dream of standing on top of the world, they're like, sorry, what? Like Everest, do you know what Everest takes? Like, people die there. What if you don't make it? And then it's just like it's like a dead end sort of road conversation. So, khalas, I was like, you know what? In the pandemic, you really, really found out about your ultimate goals, having been like locked down and being like isolated from the world. Khalas, like, we lost 2 years, guys.
I think a lot of people found out what was important to them over that period, right? There was a lot of time to
100%.
think, understand what are you missing.
It's incredible also to hear from you, like, all of the challenges before you arrived to the base of the mountain. I mean, that's the real challenge, right? So
Just
being
getting
there, just getting there with all these challenges that you had to face. So I mean, it sounds like incredible.
Like,
journey.
honestly, I would tell my friends logistically, like, it was so nerve-wracking, a lot more than the actual physical training.
yeah.
So starting January up till March, I was training up to 4 hours a day. And that was fine because I was enjoying the training, Like, I would train with a personal trainer, and then I'd do like teach a class, and then I'd do my stair climbing, and then I'd do like a little bit of running. So in total, it would be like 4 hours. And then I'd come back and submit all the documents. There were massive amount of documents that you had to submit, including what are they going to do if you die on the mountain? What do you want to be
Repatriation
done
of your body and stuff like
to your
that.
body?
Wow.
You know, and I remember when I
that's
was
the
keeping that to the
reality, right?
very end. Like, I remember postponing signing this because I was like, am I really going to do this? Like, I'm literally signing off my death. You know, I remember telling my dad, I was like, "Sir, there's this form, and they want to know what to do with the body," and it was just like,
That's when put things in
It's tough
perspective,
for a
right?
parent
So
to-
I remember when I told my dad that, and he was just like so strong, and I think he gave me strength because he was like, "Let's bring the body down." I was like, okay, well, that's what I was hoping for you to say. And then my mom would come in and she's like, you guys are crazy. Are you listening to what you're actually saying? You're killing her. And, you know, I was just like, but it's okay, right? Like, then you start to go into like self-doubt because do you really want to do this? And then I started to develop anxiety before I went and I was like, I'm not sure if I really want to do this because it's really scary. You know, like, what if I make it? What if I don't make it? And subhanallah, like God just helped my dad have this really open heart in the sense that he really wanted to see me stand on top of the world. That was his ultimate goal at the end. Not just because he, you know, paid for it, or you know, because he, you know, believed in me, but because it was just like a project, you know.
Yeah. But so much risk that he's taking as well, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I can only imagine the relationship, the challenges that would have been between your dad and your mum with their opposing views as well, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
especially if, you know, if something had gone wrong, it was it's remarkable for him to back you in such an amazing way.
Yeah, it was just like it was crazy because I remember also, you know, you had to do all these heart tests, and I didn't want to make them here. I wanted to get them done in Egypt.
Yeah.
Because, you know, after you submit everything, this is like the final thing, like, you know, and if anything goes wrong, that's it. Like, you can't go. So I remember they made a mistake in my results in Egypt. And I didn't want to tell my mom because, like, if I had shown her, the results, if she had seen the results, she would have been like, okay, that's it. You're not going. So I had to call my dad and see. I was like, okay, so I don't know how to tell you this, but they're saying that my heart rate is like way slower than normal. So they're asking for more tests. What happened there was that they thought I was an old person because as an athlete, your heart rate is is much lower at
resting
rest,
heart rate,
at rest, right? And mine was extremely low at rest, perhaps because of all the training that I was doing for many months. And that was early March, you know. So I had just invested all this training, and then my heart rate results were just like coming out bad.
Yeah.
And then
Which
when
is
I
more
went,
efficient, actually.
Yeah.
not bad.
exactly. So I remember that day, I was just like, what? Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
This is just going to be destroyed by just like a... And then I went and I was like, no, I need to speak to the doctor. And then they're like, oh, wait a second. How old are you? And I'm like, are you serious? You know? But that's Egypt for you sometimes. I'm sorry, but like this stuff happens, you know? Yeah.
It's insane. Tell us a little bit about, you know, you talked a little bit about some like limiting beliefs, and I'm sure there's that voice in your head that keeps, you know, going on about the struggle of, am I ready to do this? You know, the challenge itself is so big. What made you keep going through, and especially after you've arrived to the mountain? What was that internal chatter like?
Look, like I was chatting to Tom earlier, I think one of the biggest challenges was me being surrounded by a group of people who didn't look like me, who didn't believe in my dream just because I didn't look like them. You know?
The mountain?
On the mountain.
Wow.
So I was saying, like, it's not an inclusive sport.
Interesting.
I was the only Arab brown kid on base camp. I mean, my experience as a mountaineer was quite limited, you know, but then again, I had very comfortably done like 7 successful mountains and attempted the second highest mountain outside the Himalayas, which is Aconcagua, and I went up as far as 6,600 meters. So that kind of given me like a little bit of confidence. And I trained on the Himalayas up and down while I was there before I even joined the expedition. That was like my extra work done. So I just, you know, that feeling of insecurity has really left like traces of trauma that I'm currently sort of healing from. Because imagine for 2 months, you're just like surrounded by people who are just like mocking you. It's like, oh, good luck, you know, like keep pushing, okay? You got it in you, girl. Like, you know, and I was just like it was a bit condescending, You know, this is just how I
Interesting.
felt.
Yeah, interesting.
And it was also powered by the fact that I was the slowest person on the team.
Yeah.
But that's then the lesson that you get. It doesn't matter how fast you go. Mountaineering is not about speed and it's not about pace. It's not a 100-meter sprint. It's a marathon.
Yeah.
And I remember one thing that really sort of like clicked, and I was like, I had a light bulb moment sort of thing. None of them were marathon runners. You know, and I have 14 marathons under my belt, and I would say, yeah, but I've run like 14 marathons around the world. They're like, oh, really? Like, which ones? And then I'd like start name them. They're like, oh, that's pretty impressive. But mountaineering is completely different. I was like, yeah, I understand that. I've also climbed, 8 mountains. I remember one girl that was coming down from the summit. She was like 3 or 4 days faster than me. And I just asked her, so how would you describe the experience? Like, and she said one word. She told me one word. It's a marathon. And I was just like thinking, yes, if it's a marathon, I can do that. You know,
That's your sign.
That's like, so I think it was just like really like, just a moment where I just realized, you know what, if they found that hard because it felt like a marathon, you know what, girl, I've done 14 of those, you know?
Good for you. I mean, that's it's sad listening to that story. It really is that that you would have to go through that people were being condescending because you, as you said, you didn't look like them. You weren't from the same places as them, and it's really sad that you had to deal with that. But I'm sure that added even more to the fact that when you did summit, and I'm sure not everybody on the mountain at that period did, right?
No.
So not everybody got up there, but you did. And how did you feel about that afterwards? After you'd summited, because you said that it was sowing a lot of doubt into your mind, the way that you were being treated on the mountain. And then once you'd summited, how did you feel about that? How did you look back on that afterwards?
I mean, before that, I just want to highlight something that was quite interesting for me. Okay, so we were around 17 attempting Mount Everest on the mountain, and 7 people dropped. They dropped out, you know? And throughout this time, you're aware of your pace, you're aware of your capabilities. Like, so for example, I'll give you an example just so that you can understand. So it takes you about 10 days to reach base camp. And then you got to go through what they call rotations. So you go up and down different altitudes until your body is completely adapted to acclimatize, right? So my first rotation attempt, they turned me around like on the icefall because I was too slow. And then they said, no, you need to rest. But I have to say this, like I was on my time of the month, you know, and God bless every woman attempting this sort of thing. Like I was like, you guys, I'm sorry, but like I was bleeding literally and doing this, you know. Some people were on pills, like, you know, some women were on pills to, you know, to stop their time of the month. But I just wanted to go all natural. Like I was like, I'm not gonna do harm to my body just because I'm doing this crazy thing. I don't want to mess up with my hormones, you know. So I was aware of my speed, but then I would see people who were like faster, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be fazed by that. Like I'm just gonna stay grounded. But then you hear that A got extreme altitude sickness and had to be flown out of Camp 1, 6,100 meters via helicopter. I was like, okay, nice. That guy was way faster than me.
Yeah.
You know? And then you hear about another person who just started to panic in the middle of the night because it was so cold and so windy. But I was kind of used to that from Aconcagua. 52-year-old man, very strong, very fit. Actually, you know, he had also bought the exclusive package on Everest, and he had a princess dome instead of like a little tent. I was in one of these small yellow tents. Like I'm Egyptian, right? Like, you know, we go small. We're hustling, exactly. You
Hustling
know,
on Everest.
we don't like invest in like what they call princess domes. It's like an extra $13,000 to just like get a bed on base camp, and you get a little table if you want to do like your work. You get heating. Wow. And I asked for one thing. I was like, does this thing have a toilet? Because I could actually think about investing in another $13,000 to get a princess tent.
Just for toilet?
Just for a toilet in the middle of the night. But then you see these people again dropping despite having the money for a princess dome or whatever. And then also, you know, one girl who was like way faster. after she reached Camp 3, which is like 7,100 meters, she felt some like stomach aches. She said she's gonna go do some checkups in Kathmandu. They held on to her. They're like, this is stress ulcer, out of safety. You're not
Really?
going back.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, what? Pascal is not coming back? Pascal was like 3-4 days ahead of me.
Yeah.
And that's when you really start to realize the mountain has the final say.
Yeah.
Like, it's not about your pace. Yeah, they were condescending. Yes, they were like looking down at me and it felt horrible. And I'm still really healing from that, because why are people so mean? You know, why is it such a cruel and harsh world? You know? But yeah, you just gotta really stay focused and strong. When I came down, you just have to reflect on all this. And that's why you just feel like hungover for the longest time. Like, I couldn't believe it, honestly.
Just so much to process, right?
So much. Like,
I mean,
you know?
going back to the treatment and how people were dealing with you. I mean, so much of that will come from their own insecurities, right? Because if they have a fear that, I would imagine everybody that's there is fearing whether they make it or not, right? And if they see somebody else that they think might be physically not in the same space as them, but then, as you said, those guys were marching ahead, but then didn't make it.
Yeah.
And there's two sides to it. One is as you rightly said, the mountain makes the final decision, but also mental strength and physical strength are two very different things.
Very
right?
different.
Very different things.
Yeah.
So somebody might have a big backpack and off he goes up the mountain, but the next day, as you said, this guy and he wakes up in the middle of the night, full panic attack because his mental state is not there. Whereas you've done mountains, you've done marathons, you've done all sorts of these things to build your mental strength, and that's at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it would just really go down to your level of tolerance to suffering,
Yeah.
ultimate suffering. Just like how strong can you keep holding on, when it's just like ultimate suffering in every sense of the word, like weather, nausea, a bad environment, it's really cold. I was really afraid to lose my fingers, honestly, because like my fingers would be so cold every day to the point where he said, okay, we need to buy new gloves. Like on summit day, I don't know how this is gonna like play out. And that's when I had the helicopter like drop off like extra gloves and stuff and extra hand warmers,
And so let's start the journey from you're leaving base camp. You're going, is it the Khumbu Icefall? Is that
Yes.
the first part?
Yeah.
Take us through that, because that's pretty notoriously horrific.
Right before that, on May 6th, I broke down in Camp 2 as my final rotation. And I filmed myself for me initially, and just to document these moments, because we sort of get into these, and I know Tom gets it, but like we sort of get into these moments where, in the event that your expedition or your adventure or your attempt fails, you become really harsh on yourself. You never forgive yourself. Like, I've gone through these things a few times, and I just wanted to document it for me, by me, how harsh it was. I was throwing up like literally everything. Like, you'd wake up, you'd sit up, and then you just like throw up.
Wow.
It was just like immediate, because I wasn't on the altitude sickness medication by choice, because he's like, how many pills are you gonna take? It's like a 2-month like expedition, right? And I filmed myself, for myself. I wasn't planning on sharing it. But then as I was coming down from the second rotation and last before the final summit attempt, I said, you know what? Just in case this doesn't work out, I'm going to share this on social media. I hate drama. I hate girls who do this. I hate crying on social media. I think most of the time it's fake. I'm like, I don't care if they think I'm being fake, but I'm just sending out a message in an indirect way that I don't think we're going to make it, So I posted this video on May 9th. It blew up. Like, I got extreme support. Like, Tom messaged me, like very, very special people to my heart messaged me. And that's when you really understand what it means to be supportive when someone is going through these kind of things. Like, don't just say like a good luck, you got this, can make such a big difference. It takes nothing. It costs you $0. It takes 0 of your time. It's free on social. You're just like chilling on the beach and believing in someone that they can do it. I got so many sincere messages that I said, okay, you know what? I really don't feel like I'm alone. I'm not alone. Because I remember this feeling of isolation that was horrific. Like, I'd have to show up to the food tent 3 times a day. I swear to God, you guys, it was like the worst times of my life. Just like walking in knowing, you know, how they're gonna make me feel or how I'm gonna feel. And just like staying like solid in the sense that just eat your food, drink your water, take your vitamins, walk back to your tent, do whatever. I downloaded like a ton of Netflix movies, and I would like, you know, video chats with my family and friends and do a little bit of Instagram. But I was very low key as well because I didn't want the distraction. So after I posted that video, the amount of support I received was incredible. You know, I really felt like, you know what, let's do this, team. Yeah. I looked really good. I only had like 2 days, 2 full days to rest. Other people had 5 and 6 days because of the weather. But Mike, the expedition leader, said, Manal, like, you really need to go back up there. I'm giving you 48 hours. We don't want to miss the weather window. And I said, what happens if I get 5 days? Because some people even flew to Kathmandu, went to spas, went to like, you know, for a couple of days just so that the body recovers, and then they fly back in helicopter. It's very expensive. One helicopter ride out of base camp to Kathmandu is $3,500 per person.
Wow. But people, I mean, some people are just throwing so much money at it that they don't, they don't care at that point.
Yeah, I realize there are a lot of rich people up there,
There's a lot of rich
honestly.
people up there,
Yeah, there are a lot of rich people.
It's expensive, right? And
Yeah.
it's one of those things that's the pinnacle. So I think people that can pay for it do pay for it.
So, like
So
I
2
said,
days and then-
so I said I don't have time to go to Kathmandu. Like, I'm not gonna go shower.
I want to
and
go
like,
to the spa. Where's my spa?
you know, I remember coming down from second rotation. I would tell my guide, like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to go to Namche! Yay!" Namche is like at 4,000 something, and normally people go there to like shower, go for because there are spas in Namche, right? Namche Bazaar, right? And he's like, "Okay, let's see, blah blah blah." But Mike was like, Manal, we don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I was like, what, really? So you just have to switch on the like let's do it mode.
Yeah.
Khalas, you know? And I discovered something, like there's this secret, you guys, where if you just break days into like individual chunks, right? So for example, you know, I had like 6 days up to reach the summit, but I thought of every day as just one day. And then when I finish one day, I think of the next day. And then the next day, the third day. Do you know what I mean? Like you just break it up into blocks and just remind yourself that there are only very limited amount of time left. You just have to push for this particular time. One day at a time. And that's it.
So really interesting. When Marcus did the 30 marathons in 30 days.
Yeah.
And he said exactly the same thing. He said the day before somebody messaged him that he respects and obviously thinking about what to say to him before he starts 30 marathons in 30 days. And he said, it's not 30 marathons in 30 days, it's one marathon 30 times.
Yes.
So he said, you've only got to worry about the marathon you're doing that day, forget about everything else. You've only got one to deal with. And you wake up the next morning, you've only got one to deal with. And it sounds quite similar to how you broke things down, because often when you're going on a journey with such a grand goal that sometimes can feel so out of reach. It's daunting to try and figure out how, the path from where I am now is so far away from where that goal is. To try and comprehend all of it in one go, it's almost impossible, right? But if you break it down into day by day, hour by hour, marathon by marathon,
Chunks.
or whatever it is, it's all manageable, because you know you can do that marathon, or you know you can do that one day. No matter what they throw at you, you know you can get through one day.
Yeah.
You wake up the next morning, you go again.
Yeah.
And no matter what they throw at you, you can get through one day. But can you get through 2 weeks? At that point, you don't know. Or 2 months, you start to doubt yourself. That's really, I think that's a really powerful tool.
So yeah, I went through the ice fall. Like I was slow again, and I was just like telling my head, I was like, dude, this is not gonna work. Like you keep saying that these rotations are supposed to empower you, make you stronger, and you know impact your like speed. But I'm exactly like the first rotation. He's like, wait until you use the oxygen, you know. And then Camp 1, 6,100
so
meters.
Just to clarify, all the rotations are without oxygen, so you can train your body, right?
Yeah,
And
but
then you
then
only use oxygen on the summit.
On the summit push, exactly, because it's expensive, right? You don't want to use up all the bottles.
We spoke about that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
No, but also because like you don't really go up into the death zone beyond Camp 3. So most people use it starting Camp 3.
Which is what height?
7,100 meters above sea level. I started the oxygen starting 6,500 meters to go up that wall to, and it's not frowned upon or anything, you know, it's accessible. And a lot of people do it just like, you know, for comfort, you know. So then we reached camp one, I was slow again going through the ice fall. And that's when I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try my best. You know, I've already put out a message to the world that I don't want to quit. I'm not a quitter. And I really, really, really didn't want to be that girl who turns around again on Everest. I did not want that. Like, I was like, this is not going to be my ending. Especially if you taste what it's like to fail on a mountain, it's horrible. Or fail on anything in life in general. Like, it'll always leave a scar, you know?
Yeah.
And this scar will always be alive until you just like get over it and you learn to heal, you know?
A question for you, and it's something that I've sometimes tried to figure out myself with trying to set big goals, and when you get to like that crunch time and you're trying to figure out why you're there and what's going to motivate you to finish and all of these things, you got all this going through your head. How much do you feel that it's internal motivation versus external motivation? And what I mean by that is that there's something within you that said when you were a little girl you wanted to climb Everest, right? So that's there. You've got this thing inside you. But when everything's the proverbial shit's hitting the fan and it's, you know, everything's going south on you, that person's still there inside you. But then there's this other side, which is, what will everybody else think?
Yeah.
And I don't want to come down as a failure. I don't want to be seen as this. And that's actually the ego talking, right? And it's your ego that actually then motivates you. And everyone talks about ego as a bad thing. But there is an element of the ego that actually can drive you to do incredible things. Because maybe you'd have given yourself the easy way out to be like, oh, it's okay, I know how hard it was, so I'm okay with making the decision to drop on this because I know how difficult it was. But then there's the ego that's saying, but you can't do this because what will everybody say when you come back down off the mountain, right? And so it's actually, you can turn what is generally seen as a negative, the ego, into something that can be a very positive force for achieving amazing things. How did you find that mix when you were on the mountain?
So I just want to say that, you know, with being like a public figure and choosing, you know, to share your life with the world, you know, you reach this state and, you know, you secretly want everyone to keep cheering you on. You know, that's the whole point of actually having a platform. Like, whether people want to admit it or not, you secretly want to see people, yay, girl, like, you know, you got this. Oh my God, you're so amazing. You're my hero. I think that's the truth of the matter. Like, okay, this was my goal. This was my own personal goal way before social media existed, actually. Like, when 2007, I saw, you know, the first Egyptian man to summit, and I said, I want to do that. I was nobody on social media. Like, there was no social media, actually. There was only Facebook with private profiles. So you also got to remind yourself of your why. You know, like, why are you actually doing this? Because this will be the ultimate question when literally shit hits the fan. You know, why are you putting yourself through so much suffering? Why? You know, why? Like, your hands might freeze. I'm sorry, but like, I was shitting in a hole for 2 months, you know, shitting in a hole for 2 months. Who is able to tolerate all this like extreme stuff? And I'm like, yeah, because I want to be the girl to stand on top of the world. I want to do that. You know, I remember my niece sent me this message, and she said, I don't know why she said that, but it was just so weird. What would little Manal think of you right now? Like, what made you say that? You know, like, why would you say that? And then you just realize, with all your learnings, all your sort of, you know, memorized emotions about who you think you are versus who the world thinks you are and wants you to be, placing you in a box. Like, everybody still puts me in that, oh, that hijabi oppressed little Arab girl, you know? And, you know, the more, I feel like the more hostility I faced on the mountain, the more I wanted to really smash open that box. Because if I summited Mount Everest, raise my surviving hijab flag, nobody will ever take this away from me. And that was like the ultimate motivation. But then comes the point where there is the external motivation factor. Who is Surviving Hijab? Surviving Hijab is the world's leading or biggest online hijab supporting community on Facebook in the world. Like, it's, you know, so if I didn't have this community, and hijab was just like my own personal cause, you know, to change the image of the world, of how the world sees a hijabi woman, I don't think it would have been as strong as taking the community with me. Because one girl said, after I shared that video also, I'm telling you, like, this video was like a groundbreaker. Like, it was weird. She said, please don't give up. You're taking 1 million hijabi women with you up that mountain. Because we're like 1 million, right?
Amazing.
On it's like a close community. It's like, it's my home. I was like, wait, like I don't want to take 1 million women. That's
The
a lot
pressure
of,
now, yeah.
that's a lot of pressure, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it goes hand in hand. But again, you really got to do what your heart is telling you to do. Like you got to ask yourself, what is your why?
Yeah.
You know, as
But
much
it's
as
complex though, isn't it? Right?
Exactly.
Because it is some internal factors, it is some external factors. I really appreciate your honesty in I suppose admitting that there is ego with this.
Of course.
Of course
Yeah,
there
yeah.
is. You know, you want people
course.
clapping. Everybody wants people
Yeah.
clapping, right? Everybody feels good for that. And I think a lot of people shy away from that and say, oh, you know, it's this deep internal super motivation. And you're like, yeah, that probably got you to a point. But there's also the other element. I mean, especially when you're a public figure as you are with you know, a million people in your closed group, and you know, talking at Facebook HQ and all the things that you've done.
Yeah.
Like you are standing for something that's more than just Manal the individual, right? So it's probably even more complex as to what that why actually means, and there's probably a whole bunch of, if you wrote that out on a piece of paper, there's all sorts of things that actually make up that singular thing, not just because I decided when I was a kid to do it. Like if there was no social media, if there was no group, if there was no photos, nobody knew about it apart from you, would you still do it? You know, and that I think that's a question that
Interesting, yeah.
it would be difficult to answer for anybody that tries to do these big achievements, because you don't, we're like, okay, well, how much am I doing it because I want to be that person that did it, and how much is it just because deep down inside me? And that's with running races, marathons, mountains, it's everything, right?
Yeah.
It's a really complex makeup of why we do these things, but yeah, it's really interesting.
You
to
know,
hear the story.
like I remember when I really hit rock bottom. You hit rock bottom, and for Everest, it's like multiple points when you hit rock bottom. And honestly, what I felt very resentful about was that I don't think anybody who's summited Everest from the entire mountaineering community, and I'm gonna say this out loud, I don't think anyone really documented how it really, really, really felt. Like I was brave enough to come out to the world and say, you guys, I'm suffering up here. I killed my ego. I murdered my ego.
Yeah.
I said I was slow. I was the slowest on the team. There were high chances of me not making it, but here I am. I'm in the fight to keep on fighting, you
Amazing.
know? And I remember it was like, we talk about ego, and it's a horrible thing and a great thing because it can bring you down and it can take you to the top of the world. I was like,
Literally.
why are you actually, quite literally. And I was like, why are you actually doing this, Manal? Like, you know,
While you're on the mountain.
while on the mountain, you know, I was like, you're not enjoying this. I remember someone was like, I hope you're having fun. It's like, fun? Fun?
We're shooting
What
in a hole.
fun?
Yeah, fun.
Suffer.
You know, the only thing I did document was like, hi, everybody, like having the shit of my life here, you know? But I was like, why are you actually doing this? Like, why? You know, you're away from family. I missed out on Ramadan. People were bullying me because I was not fasting, and I took cleared license from, we have license not to fast when we're traveling.
Yeah.
And I was in touch with like a religious scholar on a daily basis who was monitoring and mentoring and everything. And he was like, you're solid, keep going, you know, don't listen to this stuff. People were bullying me. You know, it's like
That's
also
a limiting mindset as well. But
you know, but then you just ask yourself, like, why am I actually doing this? And if there was no social media, I asked myself, if there was not going to be any PR, if nobody was ever going to learn about this or find out about this, would you still do it?
Yeah.
The immediate answer was yes, because I did not want to like die, even though I could have died on the mountain, but I didn't want to die or leave the world without having this particular goal. I mean, same thing goes with the marathons. Like, I want to be the girl who runs the world. I am running the world. And again, I asked myself this: if no one was to ever learn about your experience, would you still do it? My immediate answer was yes. And that's when I really knew, like, okay, fine, then shut up and keep on pushing. And I remember I wrote myself a letter on notes on an iPhone, and I just said, like, you know, you're acting like, I was just trying to be very respectful here, but like, I'll tell you what kind of word like I want to use. But like, you know,
do you want to read it?
Yeah.
Do you want to read the letter for us?
No, but I'm just like, I was just like, you know, like, why are you acting like this? You're like living the ultimate dream and you're acting like this, you know, like you're chickening out of your ultimate dream. Like, what's the alternative of what you're doing? Like, just like go back to Dubai and you know, teach classes and you know, being like the sports influencer. What do you want? I was very harsh, and that's when the self-talk starts. And that's when you really have to dig deep. And I remember you telling me this in your message when you texted me, you know. But like I said, Tom, it just goes back to like, okay, let's leave the ego out of it. You know, what is the actual cause? What is the actual reason? And then flashes of little Manal would come, you know, in my head. And I was like, I just want to make that little girl proud, really, you know. If I had told my 8-year-old self or 6-year-old self, 5-year-old self that, girl, you're gonna stand on top of the world.
Yeah.
You're gonna show people what you're made of. I'm telling you, I'm the girl next door. I can't do pull-ups. And I'm like, you know, because everyone's like, you know, like, did you do loads of pull-ups before you went to Everest? It's like, dude, I can't do one. I can't do
And
one.
also, what's the point?
Interesting. Yeah.
No, but like it just if you
You're
can do a
bench
pull
pressing
up,
your way up
if you can do a
Everest,
pull up, you
Yeah.
can like pretty much be strong on the ice fall. Like I learned that, like you know. But
Okay,
then
with ice
again,
climbing, fair enough. Yeah,
you know. But then again, I mean, I do have some sort of strength.
Cool.
But you realize that it's always mentally. Just like breathe, you know, and you just like gotta push, you know. Like I remember listening to Sia, you know, The Greatest. That was just
Yeah.
like the kind of songs that were on repeat, you know, Titanium, you know, the kind of songs that were on repeat. These songs you will understand, right? It really makes a difference, you know.
And at that point, any kind of motivation, right? You just want to like keep pushing
anything,
through that,
Yeah.
through that suffering as well, whether it's through music and understanding that there's a community behind you as well.
Yeah.
keeps pushing you forward.
Yeah.
I mean, that self-talk is super interesting, and I think, you know, it sounds like there was many moments of doubt when it comes to like your physical ability. You were the slowest and stuff like this, but you finally did summit. Do you finally attribute that to your mental resilience or that mental toughness?
Yeah,
Was that the main?
100%. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 100%. It's just like mental toughness, and that's why you shock yourself, and that's why you struggle to believe that I did that. You know, like it was like out of body experience. You know, for a long time. Like you know, I'd go and do all these interviews, you know, for Egyptian television and whatever, and then I'd hear them, you know, present me as the first Egyptian woman to stand on top of the world, and I swear to God, for a split second, I was like, who is that? I was like, that's me.
Looking behind you.
No, but really, like it was just
Yeah.
so weird, you guys. Like it was just I can never describe it. And you know what you go through to process, and you're just like so fragile after it because you've seen something you never realize you're capable of. And I think that's why we keep going on these adventures, and that's why we get addicted. And I'm sure Tom understands because of that invincible feeling that we get. And then it dies out after a little while.
Yeah.
With Everest, I know it's gonna last longer than you know my marathons, but you just keep on wanting to feel this way, you know. But definitely mental toughness and just faith over fear every single day. And I remember speaking to God and saying, if you think I deserve to stand on top of this mountain, I want it. If not, if you think that I didn't work hard enough, I'm not a good Muslim like some people were calling me because I like literally sort of like dropped my faith to go on this personal adventure because that's the reality of the matter. But then again, Everest is only April, May. Ramadan was March, April, right? I didn't intentionally skip Ramadan because I wanted to go on a mountain climbing. It's like I got a lot of hate, you know, and it was I just started.
This is small-minded people.
Tried to stay
Yeah.
away from it,
yeah.
you know. But as somebody who practices, it affects you, right? I practice religion, so it does affect me.
I'm sure, but these are people that will never do what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah.
And they feel challenged by the fact that you're even doing it, and people always just act defensively in that situation, right? It's their own insecurities.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, I think I'm better than her, and she's doing this, and you know, all of a sudden, all this negative behavior comes out. Going through the Kumbu Icefall, which is, you know, notoriously dangerous, and upwards from there. What were some of the points outside of the, you know, you've spoken at length about the difficulties, the mental challenges, and this, but in terms of actual moments, are there any actual moments that are like etched into your brain where you were like, you've got your hand on an ice axe, you're stepping over a crevasse? Like what were the physical moments that you went through going from camp to camp where you were just like, wow, this is either the most dangerous thing I've ever done, or this moment is the most scared I've ever been, or what were the things that really stand out to you?
I remember crossing my first ladder in the Kumbu Icefall. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. And a German girl was crossing in front of me. I remember because I was hearing her, and she just like broke down. And the moment I saw her broke down and cried, I broke down and cried. Because you know what the ladder is like, right? It's like linking like
I've seen, yeah,
two crevasses. And it's like really, really deep. And in general, I struggle with anxiety, especially after the pandemic. Not like it's mild, and I have been diagnosed, but nobody wants to prescribe anything because also as a pharmacist, I don't want to get hooked on these medications. I mean, if you are hooked on it, it's fine. But like as somebody who understands everything, like I just don't want to go there. And I remember like I was like, I can't do this. Like I told my God, it's like I can't do this. He's like, Manal, move. You got to move. And then you're holding on to two ropes, and you just have to switch off and pretend like you're literally not about to fall into the
don't look
deepest
down.
hole, that you've ever seen in your whole entire life. Like I remember going through the first rotation. That's when I was so slow because of my fear. Every single ladder crossing, I would break down. But I think I was also emotional because it was my time of the month, in all honesty. And I'd give women that. It's okay for us to act this way. If you are, above 6,000 meter, above sea level, attempting, one of the most dangerous zones in the world, doing this with all of our emotions and stuff, we're heroes. We're superheroes and bleeding.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And then I had to turn around, and then the second rotation, which is supposed to be my first, but I think so. I technically did like 3 or 4 rotations on the mountain. You just like you become like sort of more efficient. You get it because it's the same exact route, and you just keep going up and down. So I would say I was only scared of the ladders going through the Convo icefall. Everything else was pretty much okay. Like it was actually beautiful. Like I was enjoying myself doing it, but very scared.
Yeah.
It's such a weird combo, and that's why, like I said, you come back, your emotions are just like all over the place. You're loving it. It's like love, hate, suffering, crying. But the second time around, I didn't cry. Crossing that, I was solid. I was like, I'm gonna do this. Like like this has got nothing on me. Camp 1 was fairly okay, like 6,100 meters, no issues at all. The walk from 6,100 to 6,500 is hell. It's very close up to the. People don't understand this, but I don't know. Maybe someone can explain it from a scientific perspective. But like, because it's a very. Have you run Boston?
No.
It reminded me of Boston Marathon, because Boston Marathon, there are all these subtle hills.
Yeah.
And you don't really feel it until you're actually running, and you find yourself, you're slowing down, you don't understand. So everything when someone is like, this is Boston. Like it feels like Boston because it's subtly slanted, and obviously like, with an incline, it gets so hot because I was slow. So if you get like at 12 p.m., 11 a.m., 12 p.m., you're done. Like the sun is directly on top of you. There was this video where I shared, I was putting ice inside my clothes just to cool down myself. It was so hot. I remember reaching Camp 2, and I put myself, and Manal, he's like, are you okay? Do you want to have something to eat? I was like, yeah, sure. I went into the food tent, threw up all the water, all the food, all the snacks that I had eaten, and drank. And he's like, why did you throw up in the tent? I was like, where am I supposed to throw up? Like, where am I supposed to throw up?
Outside the tent.
But really, like, because
designated area here.
when it happens, and he just had a go at me that day. Sleeping at Camp 2 was the worst nights of my life.
Really?
It's very, very cold. It's 6,500 meters. So what happens is that your nose blocks immediately. So what you do is you're supposed to cover your nose. You put like a buff, you cover your nose, and you start breathing from your mouth. Okay? But what I found was happening was that I would get a dry mouth every time, you're testing it out sort of thing. You're like breathing through your mouth, but then you get a dry mouth. So you got to wake up and have water. And then when you drink a lot of water, you need to go to the toilet. And I had pee bottles. So I was peeing inside the tent.
Yeah.
And one day, I ran out of the 2 pee bottles. So I had to figure out what I'm going to do. You don't want to leave the tent in the middle of the night in this kind of weather. It's awful. And I remember every time I'd put my head down like this, I would be woken up by chest tightness and cuffing. Really, this is exactly what was happening. So I couldn't sleep, and I was like, what am I going to do? I remember I just kept finding different spots in the tent, and at the end, I woke up the following morning, I was sleeping on my boots You know, I was just like anywhere. It was just like sleeping on the boots because I was like, I'm just gonna listen to Quran, you know, or like watch Netflix and just like hope to sleep. Friends helped me a lot, by the way, because I downloaded. It was just like so chill.
Nice.
So that was the worst camp ever, Camp 2, because you're not really using oxygen.
Okay.
Camp 3, you know, because I had started wearing oxygen from Camp 2. So Camp 2 to Camp 3, it's quite steep,
Yeah.
you know, and it's all like ice climbing and stuff. But because I was on oxygen, I was quite fit and strong. And it was one of the best nights that I slept on Camp 3 because you sleep on oxygen.
Nice.
And you just like go like this and it's like,
Out.
wow. Honestly, it's like you're high. You're so high on oxygen. The walk from Camp 3 to Camp 4 was actually like quite nice and smooth.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of ridges and rocky places and stuff, but you know that you're going to Camp 4, which is the South Col.
Yeah.
You know that you're kind of like
And
almost
that's just
there.
below Hillary's Step, is that right?
No.
No?
That's not even starting to head up to the
Okay.
summit. So Camp 3 is 7,100.
Yeah.
Camp 4 is 7,900.
Okay.
So 7,100 to 7,900.
Yeah.
That's the South Col. You're
Okay.
officially in the death zone.
Yeah.
You can't be without oxygen. Nobody at this point is without oxygen. So when I reached South Col, it was literally just like as if you've reached the moon, you know? Like my guide was so happy because he kind of felt like, oh my God, she's doing this. Because for him, he also wanted to get to say that he took up the first Egyptian woman up to Everest,
yeah.
right? It also, his success is my
course,
success,
yeah.
you know? And I remember I'm not sure if you follow her. Her name is Rebecca Louise. She's an influencer. She's British.
No, don't.
And I was following her before I go to Everest because she's just popped up on my feed as somebody who was training for Everest. This is like really wild how social media works, honestly. And like she was going up with like a team and she had her own videographer and she had like her own team. And I actually met her there and she was lovely. She's like, oh my God, I follow you. And I went up to her, you know, with my shades and my mask. And God bless her. She didn't say that, who are you? Like, I can't even see you. Like, you know, and I was like, congratulations, you made it. She was a day ahead. I think that sort of given me the push. I was in good spirits.
Nice.
You know?
Nice.
Once you reach the South Col, you reach so Camp 3, you start at like 3 a.m. You reach South Col by like 9, 10 a.m. You're supposed to sleep from 10 to 5 p.m. And then you start heading up because we wanted to start really early because of my pace. I didn't mind even, you know, as early as possible. And then I did a few videos. I spoke to my parents. I said, this is it. Inshallah, we're heading up tonight. He's like, so what time is it? I was like, well, it's 5:30 p.m. Kathmandu time. He's like, okay, it was like way early in Egypt. And I just like did my thing, like spiritually. I said, you know, if I die, I die. You know, this is what God wants. But, you know, you also remember, and this is really a game changer, you didn't come this far to only come this far. Like I know that it's a cliche, but,
no, but it's built on truth.
Exactly. And I kept telling myself this, like
Interesting.
I will never be at 7,900 meters above sea level in my whole entire life again. You know, staring at Mount Everest, like it was right there. And
Was that your mantra while you're kind of like pushing through that final stretch? Did you have anything in your mind that kept you going?
I just did not want to quit. That's it. I just didn't want to quit. Like, I didn't want to be the girl who turned around Everest, who thought she's able to stand on top of the world. Like, who did she think she is? All these voices of negativity and hate were powering me through, you know? So this I didn't tell you. So everything was amazing. We started 6:30. It was a beautiful night. One of the most beautiful nights of my life. Full moon. You feel like you're going to grab the moon.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like twilight. You know, and it was so beautiful because like in the horizon, like in the distance, you can see a storm happening. SubhanAllah, like, you know, there's thunder, but there's no rain.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was being an idiot. I was telling my guy, how come there's no rain? I see the thunder. He's like, man, I'll just keep going. And I was so fast to the point that we were leading the entire expeditions.
Wow.
Like everybody, I would look behind.
Yeah.
Everybody was behind. And he was just like, Manal, keep going, keep going. All this was great until we reached the balcony. It's a little under the Hillary Step. So the balcony is at 8,600 meters. It was starting to get darker because we head out at 6:30. It was still like there was sunset, right?
Okay.
And when we reached the balcony, it was 11:30 p.m. It was really dark. The wind was starting to like pick up. I don't know what happened. I had the worst panic attack of my life. Like I started feeling like chest tightness. It was fear. And you know when they say anxiety is lying to you, your anxiety is lying to you? It was lying to me. You know, and I just kept saying, Anoop, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And he was like, what? He's like, I can't breathe because I was doing so well.
Yeah.
And then because I had bought extra oxygen, I had two extra like Sherpas, you know, that we hired to be like support. And then they started speaking so loudly with each other because from behind their masks, it really agitated me. So I started panicking more. I was like, oh my God, this is it. I think I'm gonna die. This was like the ultimate drama queen moment, you know?
If you're gonna have one,
Yeah, that's a good place to have
in
one.
The death zone of Everest is probably A, it's acceptable, but B, it's probably not the best place to have one either. So it's like there's two sides to this.
You know, and I remember it was so funny because I would joke with my guide Anoop, and I would say, if I ever panic or go on these give you a tantrum sort of thing on Everest, this is what you do, okay? You hold my hands, you look me in the eye, you hug me, and you say, Manal, everything's gonna be okay, nicely, softly, okay, Anoop? He's like, oh, yeah. And he would like, he's such an amazing man. He's from Nepal. He's like, yeah, sure. He did the exact opposite.
No. Oh, no way.
You know, he held
was
my
yelling.
arm. If you act like this, I turn you around. I was just thinking, wow, you know, so much for actually telling you what to do. And then I was like, give me my space. So what they did is like, I'm going to change your oxygen. We need to move. And he was so strict.
Yeah.
But apparently it worked, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he's probably been there before.
Yeah,
You know,
safety
he
as well,
knows
I'm
that
sure,
you
yeah.
can't be messing around up there.
You
right?
can't mess around.
There's
And
no time.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and then I was like, okay, give me my time. I was like, how much oxygen is left? He said, you have 50 bars. You know, and I was like, what's the flow rate? He said 2. I said, put it up to 4 because you can turn up like, you know. But it was just so scary, Tom, because like, you know, with the wind blowing and it's so dark and the oxygen's like, this is scary stuff. Like just when you hear it happening. And then he said, okay, I'm going to change your oxygen. So ultimately you're going to be without oxygen for 2 minutes. Are you joking? I'm going to be without oxygen. Oh my God, you know, I can't do this. And I was just like panicking. And then you see people starting to walk past you. All these expedition teams that were behind us were ahead of me now. You know, and I was like, okay, man, this is not going to faze me. I'm just going to stay grounded. You know, so they changed my oxygen. I was like, leave me alone, give me space, because everyone wants to be like in your space, literally. And I'm like, I just leave me alone. I almost pushed them all away. I sat down on a rock. I just like thought about it. I was like, this is it. This is when you decide if you're going to turn around, or you're going to keep on pushing. And I said, okay, but what if I die? But what if you fly? You know, but if you were not able, if other people are able to do this, what makes you think that you can? Because there are a lot of Arabs who've done it, right? I mean, you know, there's the first Jordanian, first Palestinian, 3 for Lebanese women, 2 Saudi women. And I'm like, why can't you give this to your country? Like, why? What is wrong with you? What is actually wrong with you? You know, nothing. You actually, you know, the oxygen mask theory, right? When basically shit hits the fan, the only way to protect you is to give you oxygen. I had my oxygen and I was still panicking. This is all inside my head. So I was playing Quran, you know, so like Islamic scripture, and I turned it up loud. I was like, I don't care if the entire mountain now listens to this. It was playing on my phone, and I was like, I know I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna go at my own pace. I'm gonna go slow. He's like, fine, but we gotta keep moving because you're shaking. I had started to shake because it was so cold. Yeah. And I swear to God, you guys, from 11:30 till 6:30 a.m., I was on autopilot. I don't know what happened. I was on autopilot. You know, I remember a little bit before Hillary's step, we saw the summit. You know, and the sun was it was just like dawn, and the sun was just about to come up. And Rupi's like, Manal, there's the summit. And then I was just like in tears. I was like, it's happening. But then you don't want to completely like start celebrating because what if something happens?
Not there yet.
And then you get to the Hillary step where it's like, it wasn't crowded, but people were starting to come down actually. They had summited, and then there are the 2 dead bodies. You just like, they're as far as me and you.
Yeah.
And, you know, you just look at them and I'm like, wow, you know, like this is actually real. Like I'm I'm crossing over dead bodies. You're literally walking over dead bodies. I'm walking over dead bodies.
Yeah, incredible.
You know, and I remember one of the girls who had summited before me. She said, her name is Megan. She's from the States. And she said, Manal, I just want to give you a heads up that she's the girl who described the experience as a marathon, you know? And she said, I just want to give you a heads up that you're going to see dead people, girl. I was like, yeah, I saw the movie. It's fine. She's like, yeah, but you're going to see dead people. I was like, yeah, but they're far, right? Like, she's like, well, I'm just preparing you mentally that you're going to see dead people. I could have touched that dead person like this. This is how close we were. And they're roped. You know, you just all of a sudden you just think, who are they? They probably had like an Instagram account and also wanted to update their feed. Like, I just made it as the first this or the 57th that or whatever. Who are they? Like, what do their parents think? Who is their wife, their husband? And, you know, I actually Googled, like, the guy that I saw was an American 52-year-old guy. He didn't have enough oxygen. He got like extreme exhaustion after reaching the summit. You know, that was very tough. That ridge, it was just crazy, you know? And then you stand on top of the world.
So how far is it from the Hillary step to the summit?
I think it was about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like, so it's 8,800 meters, but because I was so careful, and there are points where you are literally just like walking, there's this much space to walk on, and you just got to put one foot in front of the other and stay solid. And because if you look down, there's nothing, you know, but you are roped, and you're roped to your guide, and you're roped, you know, to the ropes on the mountain.
Yeah.
You know, but you also don't want drama, you know? So you go up there with so much adrenaline. When I reached the summit, honestly, like, I didn't feel anything. Like, I was just like, I was finished. I didn't feel anything. You know, like, my phone had died. Okay, so I was like, oh, wow, great. You know, we're not even going to capture the moment. So he got out my GoPro, and I was like, can you please take a video? Just super, super quick. I just need to take a video. Because I remember the first Omani girl who summited in 2019. She was on that Arab women's team. She said, Manal, please don't do the mistake of forgetting to remove your goggles and your mask. I was like, yeah, for sure. Don't worry. Like, I'll be ready for that. Like, it's the entire point, right? To take a photo up. I could not touch anything. It was so windy. And I was afraid. Like, and they changed my tank up on the summit. Can you believe it?
Wow. So 2 minutes, no oxygen on the summit?
Yes,
as well?
exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
I suppose once you're there, you're dealing with survival, not and it probably, you know.
So you're in fight or flight.
Down the priority list
yeah, of course. No, like, honestly, I didn't even know that they were gonna post about it. Like, when I came down and I realized that it was blowing up the world because Mike had posted, I was actually gonna take about a week. I swear to God, that was my intention to process. You know, I was like, I'm gonna go down. I'm just gonna speak to my dad, and that's it. You know.
Meanwhile, Mike lit the match and threw it.
Literally, my phone was hanging. I was like, "Wait, what? Come on, I'm not ready," because you're so traumatized by so much. What you saw, how you felt, how people made you feel, what you thought you were going to perform. You're going to feel like. You know, like, I mean, I did the whole like, hey, I'm on top of the world, but honestly, I was like, I'm gonna die, guys. Just bring me down. You know? No, but so when he took. Sorry, what?
No, I was gonna think, like, with these things, you would probably pre-think it to be like this
magical
super
moment.
Climax. Wow, I'm here and I'm on top of the world, and it's all these crazy things. But honestly, I've spoken to a couple of people that have done this, and like Adrian Hayes said, and the people have done big things like this. You get to the end of it, and you're like, it's so like you said, traumatic is a good word, but it takes so much to get to that point, right? Because strong people, it's not that they don't suffer, it's just that they manage their suffering and they still get through it and they still achieve. So with these sorts of things, there must be so much suffering going on that by the time you get there, there isn't this huge euphoria moment that you're expecting, right? You're just kind of there and you're like, okay, I've done it. Let's get the hell off this mountain, right?
You know, I think seeing dead people right before you stand on top of the world is not the best thing, to be honest.
I'm sure it's sobering.
It's honestly like, I did not need to see those dead bodies, and I actually spoke to the authorities there. I was like, somebody needs to like start a fund or something to bring them down. Like, it really ruins the experience. And I remember when I posted a TikTok video, I just want to tell people, because it's not just about, oh, look at me, I stood on top of the world. No, I suffered. It's blood, sweat, and tears. with every sense of the word. I put on a TikTok video about, did I really see dead bodies? And I circled the dead, because we actually have a video shot on my GoPro.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
remember seeing that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember a girl left a horrific comment on my Instagram. She said, there's nothing glorious or brave about what you've done. Your humanity died the moment you chose to step over that dead body to achieve your goal and dream. And and honestly, I think this is exactly what happened that moment when I felt so like, I was like, is this what ego drives you to do? And I think that's why I felt bad on the top. I mean, you know, we reached pretty early. Like, I wasn't slow. Like, it was 6:30 a.m. Actually, I couldn't even get a spot right on the middle where with all the flags. And I didn't even care about waiting until everybody walks up, because I was like, you know what? I made it. I know I made it. Here's a video. I did a video in English, Arabic. I couldn't remove my mask. I took a look around. I made a little prayer, you know, because what you see is just like peaks of little mountains and clouds. I expected to see like the entire world, like a sphere or something. I was like, where are the countries? Where's Spain? I want to see Spain.
Like, wave to people.
I honestly, I thought, you know, standing on top of the world, you're going to see the world.
Yeah.
You see peaks of the Himalayas, you guys,
clouds,
you know?
And it's probably just a slightly different version of the same view you've been looking at for 2 months. Anyway,
Yes,
right?
I mean, it's not about the view. It's just like feeling invincible.
Yeah.
You do feel invincible, though. This I'll give myself. I came down feeling like I'm the strongest woman I know, you know. And
Amazing.
coming down with all the blisters, like you know, you just gotta push and power through. When I reached South Cole, it was around 2:30 p.m. Anup was like, do you want to sleep here or should we sleep to Camp 3? I was like, no, let's go to Camp 3 for sure, Camp 3. I'm not sleeping here, you know? And I don't know what he was thinking, wanting me to go down to Camp 3, but normally you would arrive to Camp 3 at around like 6 p.m. or something. I spoke to my dad. He's like, Mabruk, we found out. I was like, did you? Okay, great. Just wanted to let you know because I borrowed a satellite phone.
Okay.
See, nobody would give me a satellite phone. I wrote to so many companies. Nobody wanted to sponsor me. Yeah, that satellite phone also was like another budget, right? So I was like, okay, great. Just want to let you know that. He's like, how do you feel? I was like, I said, I'm fine. I just don't want to talk about it. Like, I really don't want to talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it, you know? I put the phone down. Anup gave me my soup. It's a miso soup at 7,900. I drank my miso soup. I swear to God, you guys, with the mask, with my clothes, I went like this. I woke up the next morning.
Really?
There was no waking me up. Like, he kept saying, Manal, we got to move. I was like, forget it. There is no way.
Sleeping.
Oof. I was like, honestly, like, I was so tired. I slept in my clothes, everything.
Yeah.
You know, you just like pass out.
I can only imagine, but the body's fighting so much at that altitude, right? It's fighting to be alive because it's technically dying at that altitude in the death zone. So I can only imagine what it does when you come out of that environment, that your body's just like, wow, I need to recover.
Yeah. And I woke up the next morning and I was like, Anup, did we do it? Are you sure? I couldn't believe it. He's like, yes, I have the video. He's like, and I was like, show me the video. I was so scared. I was like, are you sure you pressed play? Are you sure? Because my phone died, right? And then the GoPro also died because of the cold. The batteries, you know? And I was like, we didn't get a photo. Are you sure? But I didn't stand. And then that's when you start to feel like imposter.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Interesting.
like it's really bad. It's like, yeah, but I didn't stand on the top. Because, you know, there's this thing where the guy touches in the movie.
Okay.
I saw people touching it, but they were playing.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the mood to play. Like, you don't want to play.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. So,
What a journey.
I know.
What a journey. And honestly, we could probably speak for another 2 hours about this. I mean, even
what
like,
an adventure.
what an adventure. I mean, do you have, from everything that you've been through on this journey, what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Don't underestimate yourself and what you're capable of.
Good for you.
Yeah, I remember, you know, looking at myself in the mirror, I was like, you were so harsh on yourself for such a long time. You know, like in preparation for Everest, like, of course you have to listen to all these podcasts and like motivation and stuff, you know, it's essential.
Yeah.
And I did this exercise where I swear to God, I know it sounds mad, but like I would stand in front of the mirror. I was like, hi everybody, my name is Manal Rostom. I'm the first Egyptian woman to stand on top of the world. I was like, no, doesn't really, it doesn't sit
Really,
right.
you're doing that?
Yeah, I was doing that.
amazing.
Yeah, for a few months actually. And then I was like, are you really gonna do it? You really think you got it in you? You know? But then now when I look at someone, I was like, hi everybody. I just feel like I stand a little bit taller, my head a little bit higher, and just never underestimate yourself. And no matter what anybody thinks of you, you just got to power through. And it's that inner voice that really knows how to get you to the top of the world. And the top of the world can be your top of the world. Like your top of the world is like performing like in the Far East, like you're chasing your ultimate dream. Like who gets to do that? Going on all these like ultra marathon races and like sub 0 degree weather. It's just like, it's great. That is your top of the world,
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So inspiring.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
It was awesome to hear the story. It's something
Thank
that
you.
we've been talking about
And congrats.
for a little while.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You deserve all of it. You deserve
Thank you.
all of it.
Thank you so
deserve
much.
everything.
Thank you.